Live. A very good evening, everyone. My name is Anmol Gupta, and I welcome you all to today's fourth session of panel discussion on GST litigations, brought to you by your own knowledge solution, GST knowledge solution, Taxo. Today, we have with us on our panel our very own Upender Gupta sir and Advocate Ramkrishnan V. Raghavanji. Before I take you through the introductions of our esteemed panel, I would like to request Mr. Manoj Kapoorji, who is the CEO of Taxo.online, to kindly give us a quick walkthrough of the features of this very powerful and dynamic tool, Taxo. Over to you, Manojji.
Yeah, Namaskar participants and thank you CN Molji, our moderator of today webinar. Hello friends, thank you for your participation once again and showing your interest to know about the salient features of Taxo. As you are aware that Taxo is a very unique online solution, or you can say the encyclopedia, which is much beyond the repository and where all your needs pertain to GST like case laws with the summary and intelligent search, all notification circulars along with the order guidelines, sample draft live, GST queries, updated act rules, commentary, each and everything get addressed at a one place. For this, you have to definitely, some people are using the Taxo.online. If not using, you can go for this. As you know that Taxo is conceptualized by the experts and professional to keep practice-centric approach and use of technology. We mix the use of technology to get easy in structured research without wasting time and resource. Taxo also keeps you updated digitally on all the aspects of GST via WhatsApp, emails, and the app. And if you are not using the Taxo, I can say that you are missing a lot and have the opportunity to get benefit one of the most advanced library on the GST, for which definitely you can contact us on. I'm repeating the number of my colleague, 4 times 9, 4 times 9, 693426. Just repeating the number again, 4 times 9, 693426 again. And thank you. Thank you. Now over to Anmolji. Please take it forward the session.
Thank you, Manojji. Coming back to the today's panel discussion, we have with us CA Upender Gupta ji, who is a 1990 batch IRS and recently retired as Chief Commissioner of Central GST Panchkula Zone. Upender sir holds multiple professional qualifications, being a chartered accountant, cost accountant, company secretary, and a law graduate. During his tenure of 33 years working in indirect taxes, sir has led the introduction of GST in our country. And for his efforts, he has been honored with Prime Minister's Award for Excellence in Public Administration and Presidential Award of Appreciation Certificate for Distinguished Record of Service. Then we have with us joining for the first time Advocate Ramkrishnan V. Raghavanji, who is a barrister at law and a senior advocate practicing at the Supreme Court. He has nearly 40 years of experience in litigation and has handled litigation in nearly all taxation forums. He has chambers in London and has appeared in courts across 3 continents. He has recently authored the Law of Goods and Service Tax book. I welcome the esteemed panel. With this, let's start the today's discussion, friends. Firstly, I will take some queries that we have received in advance from the from our viewers, and then I will quickly come to the live Q&A session. Meanwhile, I would request our viewers to kindly add your questions in the Q&A section so that I can take it up at the end. So, sir, since sir, you are joining us for the first time, I would like to take your inputs on the GST litigation, the framework. How do you see the current scenario and the upcoming scenario of GST litigation in our country? Over to you, sir.
Thank you for that nice introduction. Now, GST is evolving, and we are all more or less in the dark trying to grope our way through. So the prospects of the law being settled, the prospects of litigation are very, very large, both because the stakes are very high, and second, there is lack of clarity. Now, for the first time, we are having the appellate tribunal established, and we are hopeful that the appellate tribunal, which is a pan-India organization with benches throughout the country, will bring more uniformity in interpretation of GST. and that will give some certainty to all the problems faced by the taxpayers so far. So a short answer is yes, the prospects are very high for interpretation and for litigation, but there will be certainty after a few years. Now, I would like to add a little more about how to handle this volume of GST litigation which we are facing now. I have a PPT.
Yes, we have run the PPT already, sir. On screen share, the PPT is running.
So the first preparation for is foundation for successful GST litigation is number one, preparation, and number two, timeliness. Now, without preparation, you cannot hope to succeed. You cannot walk into a litigation and emerge as a winner. And you should also remember that the authorities there are experienced and are fully prepared, and they are the persons writing the order. So we must prepare far more ahead than they have done, and preparation is the key to success. The second thing is timeliness. We cannot be late in our preparation. We have to meet the deadlines. No amount of great preparation will be helpful if we miss the deadlines for filing a reply or filing an appeal. So two things are important: prepare first and then meet the deadlines. The second thing is to prepare early, and the most important document for preparation of any successful litigation is the reply to your show cause notice. A well drafted reply to the show cause notice will actually protect you and your client up to the very last appeal before the Supreme Court. So the first bullet which comes from your gun, the first shot which comes from your cannon is the reply to the show cause notice. And please do not take the reply casually. And that is the foundation for the litigation. When you are replying to the show cause notice, we must remember three things. The first thing is jurisdiction, the second, the merits of the case, and third, the procedure. I will now explain each of these one by one. The first thing you must check before drafting a reply to the show cause notice is whether the authority has jurisdiction at all to issue the notice. So you must do your research the moment you get the show cause notice and see if there are territorial jurisdiction and if there is jurisdiction under the various GST provisions, and how has the administrative delegation of duties been there. So that is the first thing you must check. Second thing is you must keep all your documents ready for supporting your case. I would ideally recommend having all the documents collected, make that research, take the documents from your client, build up a file, and then start drafting your reply. Too many difficulties have been faced by the clients because the first reply to the show cause notice is incomplete, or it is not very accurate, and some documents are missing. Generally, clients facing these show cause notices may not be fully prepared and they may be in the panic. As professionals, we have to mentor them and we have to trace out the documents and keep the documents ready for supporting your case on merits. Merits will be of two kinds: one, factual, and legal. Now, on factual issues, my experience has been that most of the cases up to the highest courts are largely based on factual matters. If you take care of the facts and you prepare well for the facts, then the law takes care of itself. So first, prepare the facts, prepare the documentation for the facts, and cases win not just on arguments, but they win mostly on documentary proof.
Right.
The next thing is, many people first send a reply to the show cause notice and then start doing the research on the legal authorities. That is a wrong approach because you might have missed some legal points while drafting, or there may be authorities against you which you have to address. So my advice has always been, take some time and go through the thorough legal research. I think that way your Taxo has great scope for legal research and people can have the data at the fingertips. But this legal research is essential. So do not avoid the legal research. Then the third thing is, when you have put all the legal research, should you actually mention all the cases and the citations in your reply to the show cause notice? My advice is it is better not to do that, because if you give the citations and the authorities, the person who's going to pass the order may cover up his tracks and meet these things. So let us not do it we will give the factual grounds and the legal position, but let us be silent on the authorities. We can keep the authorities for the personal hearing at a later stage. Then comes the procedural. We have now finished the jurisdictional issue. Then we have gone on to merits, both factual and legal. Lastly comes the procedural issues while addressing the reply. Now, if the show cause notice has reference to some documents or some issues which are not in your possession, you are entitled to ask for copies. And the sooner you ask for the copies, tell them I cannot ask for extension of time for reply also, if that is possible. If that is not possible, you have a disclaimer in the reply saying I am filing this reply without the documents which I need, and those documents are in the custody of the authority, and ask for these documents. If you do not ask for these documents, then you could have been taken as waiver of the documents, and it will be too late to retrieve it at a later appellate stage. Then you must always ask for a personal hearing, whether or not a personal hearing you feel is necessary, or whether or not a personal hearing is expressly permitted. I feel it is always advisable to ask for a personal hearing, because we do not know what complexities will happen.
Certainly.
And if we waive this personal hearing, later on it will be too late at the appellate stage.
Right.
And the other issue when you ask for these procedural rights is, even if the ultimate order is against you on merit, we can go to the appellate forum, or we can go to the high courts, and now the tribunal is coming to say that natural justice has been violated, and therefore the entire order has to be quashed. The third thing is continuous legal research. Now, you cannot issue your reply to the show cause notice and forget about it. My suggestion is, you have a separate file, and in the separate file you can take soft copies of all the legal authorities that you require, or maybe you can have a printout of them, whichever is suitable. And as you do your research for other cases, and as you do your updating while reading the law journals or looking on online database like Taxo, you may come across new judgments, either for or against. What you should do is immediately take your file, online file, soft copy or physical file, and add these and add a note saying this is against, this is in your favor. If you do that, then at short notice you will be able to attend the hearing and argue the case. Too often what happens is we get too many cases at the same time, and we will not be able to devote enough time to argue each one of them and prepare for each one of them. So if your preparation is complete at the show cause notice reply stage, and you keep adding all these judgments, then you can very easily argue and appear and argue and win the case without additional effort. Otherwise, what happens is, at the last moment, you have 10 matters, 10 hearings to attend, then you don't know what to research, where to research, and then it gets into a big mess. Then another interesting thing is, when you're writing the reply to the show cause notice, please do not keep in mind only the authority who has issued the show cause notice. You must keep in mind the appellate authority. The ultimate audience for your reply is not the authority but the appellate authority, because if the hearing goes against you, the appellate authority should be in a position to read your show cause notice and then give you the appellate order at least in your favor. And another experience I've had is, too often people are a little frightened to attack the authority in the reply to the show cause notice. They are very deferential and they are very polite in the reply. I don't think this is a ground for politeness at all. You need not be rude. At the same time, you must be very bold and take your points boldly. If you feel the authority is wrong in some aspect of the show court, you straight away tell him that it is wrong. Don't go around beating the bush and trying roundabout techniques. Directly you attack him. Many times, you can help your client much by anticipating litigation. With your experience in the GST, you will be anticipating these are the bottlenecks and these are the difficulties which your client may face in the future. Then you can guide him and start helping him to maintain documentation to face the issue even before it comes in. And that way, your life is also better because you don't have to run around gathering up all the documents at the last minute. Then the next thing is, if you have done all of these, then you're ready to issue your show cause notice. Again, what I would normally suggest is, even if you're a very experienced person, you must give the draft of the show cause notice to one of the juniors in your firm. Two reasons for this. Number one, since we are so well prepared and we are put our lives into that show cause notice, there will be some mistakes which escape our life because we are reading it 10 times. This young person, this junior associate in your firm will have a fresh approach and he will be able to spot typing mistakes, some such small mistakes. Now, this typing mistakes in a reply to the show cause notice has a snowballing effect. Very often, if you have some elementary mistake in the reply and the matter goes to a judge or a tribunal, he gets the first impression that this lawyer or this auditor's preparation is shabby because he does not even have the patience to look at typing mistakes. So, it is better that somebody does it so he will have a fresh approach. And the next advantage is, if your junior associate points out some mistake or has a new line of thinking and you listen to him carefully or her, and you do not say, no, it is my notice, who are you to point out? If you encourage them, then you are building up a second line to help you out in your own firm. You are giving more confidence, you are developing more talent also. So this is the reason why you must keep aside your show cause notice draft reply for one day. Allow your subordinates to look at it and then issue the reply the day after. This completes the reply to the show cause notice stage, which is very important. And as I told you, it is the foundation. Now, the second part of it is actually appearing before the authority and arguing your case. Now, at this stage, when you are appearing before the authority and arguing the stage, you must build up a separate file of authorities. And in your authorities, you must also mark and highlight the relevant paragraphs, because the authority before whom you are appearing more often has flooded with work and he will not have the patience to read out every fact of the case. I personally found it very helpful if I prepare a separate note of arguments. The note of arguments will be in two forms. The first thing is, you will have a list of all the dates and events right from the beginning of the problem till today. The list of dates and events will be help you answer the questions, if any, from the authority immediately. Because while preparing for arguments, going out for arguments, we will have certain lines of thinking. But very often, when it comes before the authority and now before the GST tribunal, you do not know the approach the departmental representative will take. You do not know the questions which will follow from the judicial member or the administrative member of the tribunal. So it is always better to prepare a list of dates and events with page references to all the relevant documents. So you will look professional and you will not waste anybody's time. You will be able to answer questions immediately. This is the first part of your notes of arguments. The second part of the notes of argument will be a bullet point of the various legal and factual arguments that you are going to project. I would advise against preparation of very detailed notes of arguments, because if you prepare these detailed notes of arguments, you will actually go there and start reading from the notes. And the impact will not be there. The impact will be there much more when you have bullet points and you use the bullet points to develop your arguments depending on what happens before the authority. From my experience, very often I have 3-4 points for argument. We never go to war with a single bullet. You must have at least 3 or 4 points to argue because we do not know which argument will appeal to the authority. If one argument does not appeal to the authority, then repeating that argument is only going to make the authority more irritated, and the authority will stop listening to the rest of the argument also. So the first point while actually arguing is your best point must be the first point. And the second best will be the second point, and so on. Then if you have your bullet points, and if, for example, when you start arguing, the authority says, look, I have studied your argument, please answer this question. You cannot tell the authority, look, I have prepared my argument in such a way, so please wait a minute, I will finish 1, 2, 3 point and then answer your question. No. You must be in a position to immediately jump and answer what he wants. And only if you convince him on the question that he asks or the authority asks, she asks, you will be able to win your case. The last hint I would say while arguing is, please be bold while arguing your case. But there is no need to confuse boldness with rudeness or with arrogance. So be bold, be firm, and be confident about the merits of your case. And I am sure you will have a great victory. These are my thoughts on preparation and handling of GST
Thank you so
litigation.
much, sir.
I'll be very happy to answer other questions.
I would like to repeat one of the point that sir has very well mentioned. I believe that is one of the most important points of handling a litigation, that we need to continuously do our research. If you have filed a draft, if you have filed an appeal, don't just stop your research before the personal hearing maybe. Just do your research on the same aspect again, because there are many times I have also faced this scenario that we have filed a reply on the date of reply filing. We did not have any judgment that squarely covers that case. But after, at the time of hearing, maybe hearing gets listed after 1 year or 6 months or so, we get a judgment which is squarely applicable on our case. So that can definitely help. So one thing that, friends, we need to keep in mind, I'll personally take this takeaway from his deliberation, is that we need to continuously do our research. So, sir, talking about this litigation, one of the most litigative area is section 16(2), sir, the input tax credit. So one of our this viewer has asked this question, that as per section 16(2) of CGST Act, a recipient should possess copy of invoice. In my dealer case, invoice copy is not traceable, as one of the partner who keeps invoice was died in COVID period. Further, suppliers has shown such invoice in GST 1, which is also reflecting in 2A. The matter is in appeal. Can dealer give the affidavit for missing invoice for financial year 17-18, or what is the legal remedy to contest this matter?
So Anmol, like you yourself has said, that 16(2) is the most litigated area. So there are 3-4 conditions in 16(2) which are to be satisfied if somebody wants to take the credit. First is that the goods or services must have been received, that the tax should have been paid, that the duty paying document should be in the possession of the recipient dealer, that the return should have been filed by the recipient. So, and the list of specified documents are mentioned in the section 16(2), read with the relevant rule, wherein it has been prescribed that the invoice, the bill of entry, the etc., the specified document basis which the credit can be taken. So the requirement is that the duty paying document should be in the possession of the recipient when he is availing the credit. So if for some reason that the invoice is missing, I would suggest that the recipient should contact the supplier and ask for a duplicate copy of the document, the invoice on which he has taken the credit, so that the conditions laid down in 16(2) read with the relevant rules are satisfied. Affidavit will do, but better is to have the duplicate invoice.
Thank you so much, sir. Ramakrishnan ji, one of the another important area of litigation that we see nowadays, that there are many judgments of the high courts. One judgment is contrary to the other, and there is no. I mean, if we talk about the high court judgments, we see that there is no uniformity with respect to this particular aspect. So, I would like to ask you that, according to you, what is the correct mode of service of a show cause notice and the order? So as per Rule 142, I believe the mode is electronically. So what are your views on this particular thing, that how should it be served by the department officers?
Now, I would start with the analysis of the relevant provision. There are two provisions, as you rightly pointed out. It's 142, and then there is section 169, which provides various about 6-7 modes. And section 169 says any one of them. So if you read that with 142, which provides for uploading, the first impression we get is uploading on the portal is the way to serve. And once it is uploaded in the portal, it is the duty of the taxpayer to keep a look on it periodically. I won't say sit before the screen every day, every hour of the day, but once a day or periodically he must look at it. But I agree with you, there are different perceptions of the court. And there are a series of judgments of the courts, high courts, which have said merely sending by email to the personal email ID of the taxpayer is not sufficient. And the reason for that is there is no way to acknowledge receipt of the notice or the order by email, which is why the high courts have said you must not upload. Now, there is a gap there, whether uploading by itself is enough or uploading should be along with personal service. I think to be on the safe side, every taxpayer should look at the portal and see if it is uploaded. Now, if that is not possible for some reason and there are problems and there is no personal knowledge of the show cause notice or the order, the second plan B is to say natural justice is denied and ask for a copy, personal hearing, etc. But as you rightly pointed out, this is plan B. Plan A is uploading is the easiest from the departmental point of view, and it is for us to be proactive and keep a watch on.
Thank you, sir. Sir, another area of litigation that is popping up these days is a very procedural aspect, that we have filed a refund application, and that requires, in cases of exports, that requires a mandatory condition that you have to furnish the copy of FIRC. Now, sir, certain banks do not issue FIRC, but they issue FIRA or FIRS, which is advice or the this statement. So in those cases, the officer sometimes says that we have to strictly go by the law, and the law says certificate. So you have to give us FIRCs only. Will not accept FIRA or FIRS. Though the FIRA and FIRS is on the same format and contains the same particulars. So what are your views on that, sir? That whether only FIRC is strictly should be given, or these would serve the purpose?
Actually, when the law was being drafted, FIRC was the only prescribed document as prescribed by RBI. FIRC serves the purpose, only purpose is that the sale proceeds have been realized. That is the purpose of FIRC. Over a period of time, the RBI has amended that now instead of FIRC, other documents are also valid which satisfy the condition that the export proceeds have been realized. So I would suggest that the RBI circular on this subject can be shown to the officer, wherein it is mentioned that FIRC, FIRA and similar documents are the prescribed documents which are now accepted by RBI in token of as a token of proof of realization of the export proceeds. That should be sufficient to my mind.
Thank you so much, sir. So I believe the correct course of action is to apprise the officers only that.
And to show the RBI circular on this.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Ramakrishnan ji, we have a question from our view that while construction of plant and machinery, we have availed input tax credit, but before completion of construction, it was washed away by the flood. What is the solution for this case?
Unfortunately, this solution is you cannot claim ITC. Under 17.5, the asset is destroyed, though for reasons beyond your control. And second, that asset cannot be used to deliver more services. It is destroyed, so you cannot claim ITC.
So the correct way is to, if the ITC has been claimed, it should be reversed, and if it is not has been claimed, it should not be claimed in the
Correct.
first instance. Upendra sir, this is another area of curiosity, I believe, in many of the taxpayers, and this is something that is a practical problem. That if the department comes up and cancels our taxpayer's registration on any premises, and subsequently that premise is said to be false by the appellate forum or the high courts, and the registration is revoked. For example, after 2 years, the registration is restored. So for those 2 years, the taxpayer could not file the GST returns. Now, after 2 years, he is filing the returns. The registration was cancelled on a false premises as already held by, let's say, the High Court or the First Appellate Authority. Now, sir, what do you feel that should be the fate of the late fee as well as the interest on the taxes that he has to pay for the 2 years? And along with that, the third question that comes up, sir, is that what would be the fate of input tax credit? Because as per Section 16(4), it has to be availed within a certain time period. Now, for 2 years, he was restricted by the portal itself to not file the GST returns, and it was not in his hand. But later, he won the matter, and it was pronounced in his favor. So, whether he'll be able to avail the ITC or not?
As the law stand today, there is a restriction in 16(4), there is a late fee, there is interest for which there is no provision for waiver. So while I agree that because of the wrong cancellation of the registration, which has been restored by way of appellate order, and earlier the taxpayer was not able to file his return because his registration was under cancellation. So having won in the appeal, the taxpayer now will be required to file his returns for past period also, because now the registration has been restored. So logically, late fees, waiver, and the requirement of 16(4) should be waived. But if we go by the instructions, and viewers may recall that recently, about maybe a year back, there was an amnesty scheme wherein the government has allowed that the revocation application, if it has got time barred or if it is pending or if it could not be filed in time, then the revocation can be applied up to a certain particular time period. So effectively, the conditions of time limits for submitting the waiver application were relaxed. But even in that circular, the relaxation from the late fees or interest or 16(4) requirement was never made. Earlier also, the late fees was waived for filing of GSTR 1 and 3B. Then also, the waiver was not given from these three things. So, going by that, legally, the department is not allowing, but logically, it should be allowed. So, the only course to my mind would be to litigate the matter and take it to the court so that the waiver can be secured only by way of a appellate order, and that appellate order to my mind will come from tribunal or high court, not within the departmental appeal channels.
Because the lower level department generally works within the boundaries of the law.
Yeah,
The interpretation of the law or going beyond the law has that power lies with the High Court.
with the high court.
Yeah.
That's
Or the tribunal, as the
or the
case may be.
tribunal. Ramakrishnan ji, this question is a very frequently asked question. I would say that many taxpayers face this question, and we also saw an amnesty scheme coming into force for this particular aspect. So basically, in certain genuine cases, the taxpayers could not file the appeal within the stipulated time period of 3 + 1 months, the 1 month being the condonable period. So, what is the legal remedy available with the taxpayers in case they could not file the appeal within that 4 months and they want to file the appeal now before the first appellate authority? What do you feel is the correct course of action?
My advice will be to file the appeal even after the 4 months delay is over, file an appeal with a condonation petition. And let us see whether the appellate authority exercises its powers to condone delay beyond that 1 month also, 3 plus 1, 4 months also. And if the authority decides not to condone the delay, saying he does not have powers, I think we should test the proposition further, take it to the High Court or now to the tribunal. The reason why I am saying this is because of the wording of section 104, which is different from the other sections. If you see section 104, where it talks of appeals, 104 subsection 4 says the appellate authority may, if he is satisfied that the appellant was prevented by sufficient cause from presenting the appeal within the aforesaid period of 3 months or 6 months, as the case may be, allowed to be presented within a further period of 1 month. So it says he can be presented with a further period of 1 month, but it does not say further period of 1 month and not beyond or not thereafter. There are many other enactments, for example, the Arbitration Act or other statutes which says not thereafter. So if you say not thereafter 1 month and not thereafter, it means there is no power. But if it just says 1 month without any further qualification, I would submit the authority in genuine cases has powers to extend even beyond the 1 month. Now, if you look at the language of 107.4, in contrast with the section 100 subsection 2 or second proviso to 101 capital B, the words used there are within a further period not exceeding 30 days. It does not say within 1 month. It says not exceeding. When you say not exceeding, it means not beyond that. So here the words used are within a further period of 1 month. It does not say not exceeding 1 month. Because of the interpretation and the difference in the language, I think a favorable interpretation should be taken. So it is worthwhile filing a petition to condone delay before the authority and contest it further. This would be my advice.
So in that case, the correct course of action would be to file the appeal before the first appellate authority. And if it is rejected, saying that it is filed beyond a period of 4 months
Yes.
and it is not within their power, file an appeal before the High Court stating that it is within their power or the reason is genuine. So
Correct.
kindly condone.
So when you file the appeal, you must also file it with the condonation petition,
Right.
explaining the delay very carefully.
I believe each day's delay needs to be
Yes, each day's delay
properly-
has to be mentioned,
Right.
but it cannot be mechanical or with scientific precision. There can be some
Yes,
flexibility,
yes.
but you must attempt. And I'm very hopeful of better things coming from the tribunal, because at the High Court level, as you pointed out, there is no uniform interpretation. The Madras High Court has given a judgment saying 1 month is the upper limit and the authority cannot condone beyond 1 month. But the Madras High Court has not noticed the difference in language between these provisions, as I pointed out to you. I'm hoping the tribunal will give a more uniform interpretation in favor of the assessor.
Right, sir. Thank you. Upendra sir, we have received a question wherein the query has been asked that the supplier of the export service has to take compulsory registration under GST, or he can take the benefit of the threshold limit of 20 lakhs. Please guide.
So if you will see the IGST Act, the export is treated as a interstate supply. And now if you see section 25, which says that the threshold limit is there, the threshold limit is not applicable in case of interstate supply. The threshold limit is only applicable in case of intrastate supplies. So export being interstate supply, the threshold limit is not applicable. So therefore, every exporter, even if his turnover is below 20 lakhs, he has to take registration. Export being interstate supply.
Thank you, sir. Ramakrishnan ji, there's a query that we have received that is there any relief ground that successor of proprietorship firm might have to fight litigation of deceased proprietor for financial year 17-18 by filing the appeal to appellate authority?
Yes, my answer is yes, because the appellate provision does not mention registered person. It says person aggrieved. So if the proprietor dies and his legal heirs who are obliged to pay the tax or the demand out of his properties, they are persons aggrieved. So they can file the appeal as legal representatives of the
So it can be
dispute.
filed.
It can be.
Right. Sir, there's a query that exempted goods have been exported. Can I claim ITC refund on freight and container charges?
So if you will see the ITC rules, the rule says section 16, exempted supply does not include zero rated supply. So the taxable supply includes exported goods or services. That being the case, the ITC would be available, and therefore they can definitely claim the refund of the taxes paid on freight.
Ramakrishnan ji, uh, uh, there is a query. Please mention the other case law regarding the ITC availed beyond the time limit prescribed under section 16(4), except the case of TVL, Kevin, HP Gas adjudicated by Honorable Madras High Court. I believe there are no judgments.
No, as of now, Madras High Court is the only good news. There are cases of other courts which are against, but I don't think they are interested in that.
Right. Upendra sir, there is a query that under the reverse charge mechanism, GST is paid on imported services, FOC basis. Can we claim ITC on RCM paid and apply for the GST refund under section 54, considering there is no payment to the parent company?
To my mind, refund under GST Act is allowed only in certain cases. The excess balance in the electronic cash ledger, in case of exports, and in case of inverted duty structure. These are the only three situations. Or excess tax paid because of the difference in rate of tax. One has paid at 12%. Subsequently, he wins the case in appellate forum, and now the tax rate is 5%. So therefore, to my mind, there is no provision where the refund can be claimed if the payment has not been made to the supplier.
Thank you.
No question of refund.
So friends, now that we have completed the questions that we have received in advance, now we will quickly jump on to the live Q&A session. Ramakrishnan ji, there is a query asked by Mr. Vinod Sharma that what should be the stand in case of ITC disallowances under section 16(4) for GSTR 3B filed belatedly. So he basically wants to ask that as per section 16(4), I have to claim the ITC within a certain time limit by the next financial year. A sunset date is there. So if a person files GSTR 3B after that date, what is the basically this is similar to what the other user has been asking regarding that TVL HP Kevin judgment.
So long as that section is valid, there is nothing much we can do. But we are hoping that there will be some flexible interpretation on that section. But I think what we should do is, until we get some more clarity from the other high courts, you keep litigating, keep the gunpowder dry, and try to question it as much as you can.
So if you permit, I will
Yeah,
I will like to add something with your
Please,
permission.
Please.
So there are two situations. One is whether the recipient can claim the credit after the time limit prescribed under section 16(4), which was earlier the date of filing of September return, and now it is 30th November. Or if the supplier has belatedly filed his GSTR 3B beyond this date, will it have the impact on the recipient that he cannot take the credit? So to my mind, section 16(4) is applicable on the recipient. So recipient has to necessarily comply with the condition laid down in 16(4), and he cannot claim the credit as the law stands today. And in the absence of any favorable decision, as has been pointed out by my friend, favorable to the assessee, the 16(4) is applicable to the recipient. He must take the credit in the September return earlier, and now up to 30th November, which effectively means the October return, because the October return has to be filed by 20th November, and the only mechanism to avail the credit is through GSTR 3B. So earlier it was returned for the September month, now it is returned for the October month. The another point which has been noticed recently is that the ASMT 10 are being received on the ground that the supplier has delayed his return beyond the prescribed date and therefore the recipient's credit is affected. To my mind, that ground is not correct because 16.4 is applicable on the recipient and not on the supplier. And in any case, when the supplier has filed his return beyond the prescribed date, that means he has paid the tax along with interest. So the tax has been paid to the government and this condition laid down in section 16.2 stands satisfied that the supplier must have paid the tax. So therefore the time limit is applicable to my mind only on the recipient and not to the supplier.
Agreed, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for giving a comprehensive, covering all the aspects of this particular section. Ramchandran ji, there is a question from Mr. T.K. Chandrasekhar. Is personal hearing posted before the reply to show cause notice valid? So basically, if what I understood from his query is, suppose the due date of filing the reply is after 30 days, and before in between that period of 30 days, the personal hearing has been given by the authorities. So is that valid? I believe there was a circular on this aspect also, because in Delhi or other states, the state tax authorities was giving the show cause notice in a sample in a standard format, wherein the date of personal hearing was being picked up by the system itself. So we have seen many cases wherein the due date of filing the reply was on a later date and the personal hearing was given on a earlier date. So what are your views on that, sir?
That is the mismatch between man and machine. That is completely invalid. It is breach of natural justice. And if you get some sort of a hearing notice like that, then I think you should immediately point out that it's contrary to natural justice, and therefore I will continue to file my reply and then give us a notice. I think you should point out, don't be silent on that. Point out the defect, point out it's contrary to natural justice.
And so basically, he should seek an adjournment that after lapse of 30 days, please give me a fresh date of hearing, because these.
Let us be aggressive. We will say that hearing notice is invalid. It is invalid because the time has expired. Let's not ask for an adjournment at all. We'll say it is invalid. Let him worry about what to do. Maybe he'll make one more mistake.
All right. Upendra sir, Mr. Ramesh Wadhwaji asked, there are two queries in his question. Under which provision, first query is under which provision the proper officer suo moto debit the tax from electronic cash ledger or credit ledger? Basically, we see that in many cases, the credit ledger, there is a lien on credit ledger, or they pass a debit entry in the credit ledger. So he wants to ask, is there any provision where the proper officer can do so without proceedings under section 79 of the Act for Recovery? So whether it can be done. And the second question he asks is, as per our understanding, as per the format of DRC1, which is the form of serving show cause notice, it shall be issued for one financial year. For another financial year, another DRC. So he wants to ask basically in those cases where the demand is for 3 or 4 years clubbed. So in those cases, as per the format, the DRC1 has to be issued for a single financial year. So in those cases, whether different DRC1s should be issued for different financial years, or a single DRC1 can be issued for clubbing the financial years.
I think there is some case law also on this. I believe some High Court has said that, so there are two views on this. One view is that as long as it is within the limitation period, as prescribed in section 73, then probably a combined show cause notice will do, because then only one reply, one hearing, one order and one appeal would do. If we issue the multiple show cause notices, DRC1 and thereafter the show cause notices, then it will be multiplicity of proceedings. So it will be better that if we get only one, provided the limitation period prescribed in the law is met. By clubbing many financial years, the limitation period as prescribed in section 73 cannot get extended. So if he goes beyond the limitation period, then there is a challenge, because in the garb of issuing one single DRC1, the time limit of 3 years prescribed in section 73 cannot be breached. That is my take on this. So to my mind, a single one can be issued as long as it is within the limitation period. Now coming to first question, I think it is 83, under which the lien is
Provisional attachment. Yeah.
provisional
Section
attachment is
83.
provisional attachment is done. Then in certain cases, probably the recovery proceedings can be initiated directly. For example, if there is a mismatch between GSTR1 and 3B, because there is an explanation added to section 75, I think, wherein it was said that if you have declared certain outward supplies in GSTR1 but not declared in GSTR3B, so whatever is declared in GSTR1 will be treated as self-assessed tax, and there is no need to issue any show-cause notice, and directly recovery proceedings can be initiated with respect to those supplies which have been declared in GSTR1. So to that extent, probably the debit can be done. Otherwise, the provisional attachment can be done. Direct debit cannot be done unless the time period for recovery has started. For example, an adverse order has been received, appeal period is over, no appeal is filed. In that case, after the appeal period is over, then the recovery proceedings can be
Certainly.
initiated. In that case, the direct debit can be done. But if the appeal has been filed and pre-deposit has been made, the law is very clear that the remaining portion gets automatically stayed. For that portion, no debits can be done.
Ramakrishnan ji, there is a query regarding the litigation aspect only, does not involve the GST aspect, but he asks, there is an anonymous attendee who asks, what possible problems a client may face in the GST litigation? I would like to request you to kindly keep it very brief because we are running out of time and we have many queries. So just a quick suggestion regarding the problems that may be faced by the client in the GST litigation.
Now, main problem is in the GST litigation, the authorities right up to the appellate authorities are departmental people. So you have a departmental bias against the taxpayer. That is the first thing we must look at it. And our preparation must be so much that we overcome that initial bias and compel them to issue an order in our favor. I think that is the first key takeaway.
Right. Upendra sir, Mr. Vinod Sharma ji asks, should section 168A be challenged while filing SCN, which talks about the extension of time limit and the various notifications issued extending the time limit for issuance of
Yeah,
SCN order?
I think many high courts have given the stay on notification number 9 of 2023,
Yes, sir.
wherein the time has been extended and the plea has been taken by in various high courts by the petitioners that 9 by 2023 goes beyond what is allowed under section 168A. Yesterday only, I think I was reading some decision wherein Jharkhand High Court has given some stay. And in one of our own cases, which has been handled by APRA team, the stay has been granted by Punjab and Haryana High.
Yes, sir.
So one must challenge the time limit, time extension given by the department in exercise of power under 168A.
Thank you, sir. Ramakrishnan ji, a procedural aspect regarding the filing of appeals. An anonymous attendee asks, after filing of APL 01 online, is it necessary to send the form along with attachments physically to the appellate authority?
I do not think it is mandatory, but
It was mandatory earlier, but there was a circular, I believe, in December 23, which allowed.
transition.
Yes.
So earlier that circular was creating a lot of difficulties and it came for some criticism before the court also. After online filing, they were insisting this and they were saying it is time barred because we did not file it physically. Now that has been sorted out.
But do you think it is advisable to file it manually if it is possible, just for the ease of the appellate authorities? Not as a mandatory requirement, but just as a
Yes,
procedural exercise.
we can do it as a procedural exercise, but what we must now be cautious is that cannot be misused and twisted against us.
Right.
That caution. So you can probably file it saying we have already filed it and that is counting for the limitation purpose. For your convenience, I'm filing this. So you have some disclaimer and then file it. Otherwise, our good intention should not be misused against us.
Right, sir. Uh, Upendra sir, there's a question from Mr. Mahinder Jain. In department audit, can department issue SCN for financial year 17-18 and 18-19 without mentioning the grounds under section 74? So basically, a section 73 timeline has already been lapsed. So he wants to understand that in audit, it can be whether it can be invoked without mentioning the ground. Certainly, without mentioning the
Shoka
grounds.
notice has to be a speaking Shoka notice. So therefore, the ground must be mentioned as to why the Shoka notice is being issued and why section 74 is proposed to be invoked.
Actually, the name itself says show cause. So there must be a cause given in the notice.
Right, sir. Upendra sir, another question goes to you, sir. Mr. Vinod Sharma ji asked, in case where property is situated in one state and the person is staying in another state and providing only exempt services, what shall be the best place for GST registration? I think this is a management decision.
Nee, what is
In case where property is situated in one state and the person is staying in another state and providing only exempt services, I believe the services he is referring to the renting of residential dwelling for users residence maybe, on which there is exemption granted to the service provider. So he's saying that whether I should be registered in the state.
No, but if I am providing only exempt service, why should I take registration?
Yes.
There is no need to take registration if I am engaged only in rendering exempt service. But if it is taxable service, in such situation, for example, somebody is staying in Delhi, the property is in Gurgaon. So should he take registration in Gurgaon or should he take registration in Delhi? So I believe there is a circular on the subject that it is possible that this person who is staying in Delhi may have property uh, in Gurgaon as well as in Noida. So there, if I can recollect correctly, there is a circular that he need not obtain registration separately in Delhi and in Gurgaon and Noida. He can take registration in Delhi and he can pay taxes from there. A specific circular was issued long back, I think in 17-18. This circular was issued.
So, if there is no requirement, since he's providing only the exam services, even then, if he wants to get registered as a voluntary option.
No, then he has to comply with, if he is not liable to obtain registration, but if he wants to take voluntary registration, then he has to satisfy and comply with all the requirements of GST law. That means he has to file his monthly returns, although there is nil liability. So
Yes.
one should not take registration
It is
unless
advisable not to take registration.
if he is engaged only in exempted services.
Right. Thank you, sir. Sir, though I mean this is not a GST question, but someone asked, how could a fresh law graduate decide either he should go for direct tax or indirect tax? Which one has more scope? I would just like request you to keep it brief because I mean we are running out of time. So, what are your views since you have such a vast experience of working in the taxation law?
My suggestion is try both because I've been trying both. I enjoy both. And the scope is depending on your talent. It doesn't depend on the subject. So do what you like to do and you will do well in both.
Sir, taking the last question because friends, we have many questions, but we are running out of time. So we'll quickly take one or two questions. So Mr. Purushottam Deshmukh ji asked, mostly we are getting GST payable notices where supplier GST registration is cancelled or supplier closed the business and not filed return. But taxpayer has made full payment to the supplier. So basically, it is the case where I have made a bona fide purchase, genuine purchase. I have made the payment of taxes, I have received the goods, but the supplier's registration later on got cancelled in the future. Maybe from retrospective effect, from a prospective effect. So what to do in those cases, sir?
So in such cases, I believe the Shoka notices are being issued to the recipient that they should reverse the credit.
Yes.
But then there are circulars issued by the department for 17, 18, 18, 19, what to do in such cases where it is not reflecting in two-way. And then there are press release that, first we have to go after the supplier and then only against the recipient, the collusion between the two has to be proved. So, as earlier said by my friend, that we should keep the issue live and burning, and we must defend ourselves. And knowing fully well that the order which we are going to receive, either the order in original or the order in appeal within the departmental appellate forum, is going to be against us, because this issue has not been settled, and this issue will get settled only at the level of Supreme Court, that in such cases, whether the recipient can be held to be liable to reverse the credit. So till that time it comes, we must continue to defend ourselves. In spite of getting adverse orders, we must file the appeals at the next appellate forum, so that as and when the issue gets settled, we should be able to take the advantage of the decision given by the Supreme Court. And at that point in time, if it is found that we have not filed appeal, and then we will lose whatever credit we had taken. That is all I can say.
So thank you so much, sir. So with this, friends, we'll conclude today's session. Thank you so much to the esteemed panel for giving their wonderful thoughts, for sharing their experience with us and answering all our viewers' queries. And I would also like to thank Team Taxo for organizing such a wonderful deliberation. Thank you so much and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.